shotgun with Jimmy for many years around Whiteville. He was my friend, like I said, for many years. Actually, even our parents knew each other very well. My dad, Clifford NEWSOME, worked for Jimmy's dad, Lawson, as a cab driver way back in the late 40s, right after World War II. That was before he got involved in the service station business. Jimmy and I shared a lot of growing up here in Whiteville. A lot of you know him and knew of him, too. We were good buddies in school. Then later on in life, as we grew older, most of my recent memories of him are that of a man growing older and dreaming and talking about the good old days. It seems that we rarely find ourselves growing older or feel ourselves growing older. We just turn around one day and our growing up years are soon past. And we soon find ourselves in the everyday, workaday world. But sometimes when we least expect it, some of that childlike magic returns, such as when taking a ride or a walk on a late June or July evening around dusk, and we see hundreds of lightning bugs floating up from the grass. Memories are a lot like lightning bugs, in that they just appear up out of the grass, flicker a bit, and then depart. Jimmy was seeing a lot of lightning bugs over the last year. As an adult, it seemed that Jimmy hit every bump in the road. However, he just kept on being who he was. He was once a bit of a small-town hero, but towards the end, he was just tired and worn, especially in light of the fact that he knew he was facing a terminal illness. My first memories, like Frankie, of Jimmy, go back to the startup of Little League Baseball in Whiteville back during the early 50s. Even at that young age, baseball came naturally for Jimmy. He had many young friends that played Little League Baseball with him, friends like Harry Ward, Oscar Walker, Ronald Fisher, and Harold Pate, and the late brothers Don and Alvin Wilson. In my mind's eye, I can still see Jimmy in his old red and gray Carolina Motors Little League uniform on the old Little League baseball field that Frankie referred to behind the old gym, which is now the band center or media center at the high school. In grade school, Jimmy was a year or so behind me, like Frankie, and I really didn't know much about him until our early high school years, beginning in the late 50s. His was a large family, so he was used to competition from his earliest years. But it was sports that he discovered himself and found a way to express himself to others. It was a catalyst that gave him the ability to make friends. Everyone knew he loved organized sports, and it was readily apparent to any casual observer. He let his natural ability speak for itself. Others responded to his ease of making all things athletic seem easy with glowing words of praise. He loved the attention that sports brought him and how it enabled him to make new friends, friends that would last a lifetime. In high school basketball and baseball, they were the two sports that carried his name and achievements around the county, making him known even in other parts of the state. Charlie Reagan, the much renowned football and basketball coach at old Elizabethtown High, had this to say about Jimmy after his having had two particularly good games in basketball against his Yellow Jackets. I overheard Coach Reagan state this in talking to Jiggs Powers at the scorer's table after one of those games. This statement also appeared in the News Reporter, and Charlie said, "No matter what we did, we couldn't stop him at all. His drive and ability to score was terrific. I wish he were on our team." Jimmy had scored well over 20 points in both meetings with E-Town that year, in that year of 1961, and E-Town was the best basketball team around. Jimmy loved to excel against the best. But like most of us, Jimmy had another side that many were not aware of. He had had a bit of an uneasy childhood. His father had died and left him long before he got to high school. His mother also passed just a couple of years after his graduation. I believe this bothered him for many years. In fact, I know it did. After graduation from high school, he attended college at what is now UNC Pembroke, and he tried hard to continue the game of baseball there with the hope of becoming a professional baseball player. The Baltimore Orioles had expressed an interest in him while he was in high school during his high school playing days. However, it was not to be. After leaving college, he entered the workplace working here in Whiteville. He worked at Ward's Grill and Belk's Department Store, and he also served his country in the Army at Fort Polk, Louisiana. He took up the games of tennis and golf and excelled in both. In Richmond, Virginia, he had a 5-court tennis facility built and taught tennis professionally there for a few years. Golf, however, became his personal favorite. In the 1990s, before his becoming sick and physically challenged, he put forth a lot of effort in attempting to get on the senior professional golf tour. But the lack of a good sponsor or sponsors kept him from doing so. Now I had another page here. Unlike Frankie, I did make some notes. Jimmy was openly friendly to each and every person he encountered, never meeting a stranger. He had the gift of gab and really loved a good joke. He was a good friend, and the fact is he cherished everyone's friendship. Jimmy had 2 children, Brian and Jana. He acknowledged to friends that he regretted not having had much input in their lives, admitting it was his fault. But he was proud of all they accomplished. He was also very proud of being a grandparent. In talking to him sometimes back, he requested for someone to please convey the fact that at his passing, he wanted everyone to know, in attendance, that he held no ill will towards anyone. He just wanted everyone that knew him to know that he considered himself their friend and that he was thankful for their friendship. Finally, he said to tell everyone, thanks for the memories. Now, Jimmy can go rest high on that mountain.
Amen.